It's amazing to see what AI is able to do nowadays. Recently, OpenAI launched ChatGPT, which is able to interact with you in a conversational way, as they said in their official website. And what made me interested in trying ChatGPT is this section in their website. It is showing that it's able to answer code questions and help you with solving errors without spending a long time Googling them. I've watched a YouTube video where he was making a to-do list app using Angular, following the instructions ChatGPT gave him. I decided to do the same but using React. I started by asking some questions. For example, how to make a to-do list app using React. It gave me some instructions to follow. The first step was to install the latest version of React, which was not necessary, but you can do that if you want, and ask more questions about having other ways to create a React project. So, the second step was create a new React project. The steps were clear, but I wanted to know specifically how I can actually create the app with more details. So, I asked more and more questions. I started by how to create a React project using Create React App. And for sure, it provided me with details and explanations about how I can create the app if you have React installed, as well as starting the project using npm start. I opened Git terminal and created my to-do list project. I went inside the folder and opened VS Code. Within the source folder, I removed all the files except index.js, because I want to create my own files. I went back to ChatGPT and typed, in a to-do list app, how do I create a component? The answer showed me how to create a component in ReactJs using classes, which I'm not a fan of. I prefer using arrow functions, so I changed my question and I was more specific. In a to-do list app, how do I create a component using an arrow function? It gave me a pretty clear explanation about how I can do that, along with a code snippet that has a state of items initialized with an empty array, an add item function, and some basic HTML, h1 tag, and an unordered list that has a map that maps through all the items. It also explains how can we render the to-do list components. I copied the code, went back to VS Code, and I created a new file, named it todolist.js, and pasted the code. All is okay here. But we have two problems. It didn't tell me that I should import useState from React and export the to-do list file, because as you know, I can't use the current file without exporting it. I added both of them manually within index.js. I added the tag and imported the to-do list file and opened the browser, and this is the result. Still nothing. We only have the h1 tag. We don't have any items yet in our array. It's still empty. We need to add some items to see the full result. Before adding the form, I wanted some styling, so I moved on to the next question. How can I style the to-do list for displaying a list of items in React? It provided me with two ways of adding CSS. The first way was adding style attribute directly to the tags. Look at this. It gave me the exact same code and added the CSS styling. I'll copy both styles and put them into my VS Code. And that's how it looks like in the browser. It only added a red color to h1 tag. Pretty basic. If we want more styling, I'm pretty sure if you ask the right questions, you'll get the answers you need. The second option was adding the styles to a separate CSS file, then import it to to-do list file and use the class name, and once again it used the exact same code, which is pretty cool. It makes things easier with a repeated output. And that's how the styling you are supposed to add to your CSS file. Now we want to have an input and a form where we can fill our list items. So I asked if it can give me an example of how to make in my component a form with an input and a button to add items in React. And once again, it used the same code and injected the code needed to add new items. We have a new state called text initialized with an empty string. a new add item function that is able to prevent the default behavior of the browser when we hit submit. Underneath h1 tag, we have our form that has a submit function, an input, a value of text, and whenever we change the value of the input, we will set a new value using setText. I copied the form and the new text state to my file. I also replaced the old add item function. Back to the browser. This is the form. I added some new items and it's working totally fine. The only problem was it didn't add a key attribute while looping through the items array. It's really important to add it. But since our app is pretty small and I will not use it, I'll just skip this step. The last thing I wanted to try is how to add a method to my component that will be called when the user deletes a to-do item and update the component state in React. As a result, I had a remove item function that will be called whenever I click on the remove button within the list items. The remove item function will take as a parameter the index of each item. I tried that out, and there you go. The delete function works just fine. I inspected the page to see if I'm getting any errors, and for sure I had this error because I should add the key attribute. For me personally, I think ChatGPT is a really good helper to find answers and looking for examples with clear explanations. You just need to be as specific as you can be. And I think that this tool will really improve and be more than just a helper. And it will have more and more potential. It's not perfect, but it's good enough to save some time of research. If you found this video interesting, make sure to subscribe and like the video. See you on the next one.